Hi everyone, Stepan here. Welcome to game 10 on Lichessladders. This was a very interesting game. It was a Caro-Kann, it was a fantasy Caro-Kann, and I'm going to show you the ladder after the game because as you're going to see and hear, I couldn't prepare for the game and I didn't have time because my dog had undergone surgery. After the game, because of my dog, I had to pause my participation in the ladder. So now I'm going to rejoin to explain how things work. So I'm in the 60-30 ladder. Currently, I'm in 28th place, and I normally get challenged because I forget to challenge people. And when you get challenged, you have black. When you challenge people, you have white. So now, for the first time, hopefully, I'm going to get the white pieces. I've played 10 games with black. So rejoin. Okay, so the way Lichess, I can only rejoin at 5:55. Okay, it's 1:07 p.m. Central European time now, so I'm going to rejoin in 4 hours. But in any case, it works in a way that you get to schedule classical games against serious players. You get to talk to them, arrange the game, and you play a game that's way more serious than what you would normally do. There are other ladders. I'm in the classical 60+30, and there are a bunch of people here, as you can see. So if you want to join the ladder, we've crossed 300, great. So join the ladder, challenge me. When you just join, you can challenge anyone, and other than that, you can challenge people a couple of slots above you. There are also tournaments and teams, which is a great new thing. There are Team Chess Dojo, okay? Triceratops, okay, there are a bunch of teams. I was thinking of creating my own, and yeah, there are also tournament rules. So Lichessladders, I believe, is a great way to schedule training games. If you want to, it's completely free. There's a link below. Join Lichessladders, challenge me, and if you want, help me create a team so that we can, do stuff together. Let's go to the game. Okay, so I had no time to prepare for this game. The reason is my dog had a surgery and she's fine now, thank God. But yeah, it was a bit stressful. So in any case, I was supposed to prepare and then play, but instead of that, I barely had time to be home in time for the game. So I had no idea what my opponent was going to do. And in the last two games, I played the French as black. And I thought, okay, if my opponent plays e4, which he did, I'm not going to play the French because I have no exact prep and I want to, win the game. So I played the Caro-Kann. Excuse me. d4, d5, and my opponent plays the fantasy. So in tournament games, I no longer play what I'm going to show you now. In tournament games, I play Queen b6 now. And that's, I think, the most enjoyable variation. It gives black a ton of play, and it's uncommon enough so that most people don't really know the theory. However, I used to play e6 all the time, and I have a lot of experience with e6. This is what I played against the fantasy for about 5 years. So I played this here. And the Master of Death played knight c3, which is the main move. I'm going to turn on the book so that you can see that as well. Okay, so here, the idea behind bishop b4 is that you want to take and play queen h4 and win a pawn. So there is a line that goes bishop d2, against which you could choose to take on e4, and if takes, you go queen h4 check, which is fine for black. However, after d4, white doesn't have to take back. So in any case, after bishop b4, there's a threat in the position, and my opponent played queen d3, which is one of the defenses. It's not the main one. Usually people play bishop f4, because bishop f4 not only controls the diagonal, which the black bishop has now almost vacated since I'm committed to the c3 knight, but it also prevents queen h4 check because there's bishop g3, and it covers the e4 pawn. So bishop f4 is the main move, but queen d3. Okay, now one of the main ideas in the e6 fantasy Caro-Kann is to liberate this bishop on a6, and in the main line with bishop f4, people do play queen d3 eventually, so I was familiar with the plans, and I just played b6. Now the idea is bishop a6, and there's not much you can do about it. Usually when people start with queen d3, which is what I found out during the analysis of this game, they go knight e2 here, which seems okay to me. My opponent played bishop f4, which sort of reverses the move order. And if you turn on the engine, black is already better after bishop a6. And I mean, it's easy to understand why. It's a full tempo. The king is about to get misplaced. It's not a major advantage, but after queen e3, bishop takes, king takes, the king is misplaced. So now I was happy. Knight e7. My opponent played h4. And I kept thinking about c5. I wasn't sure whether c5 was a good move, because what if my bishop gets trapped? Because the knight is no longer pinned. I thought, okay, well, first of all, if I go c5 now, a3 doesn't work because I take on c3. If my opponent goes knight ce2 and threatens c3, well, what do I do? So that's why I discarded this variation. If knight bc6, c3, I can go cd4 and the bishop seemingly comes out, but I was then afraid of e5, which makes no sense for white, so I shouldn't have been afraid. Even though white has enough defenders, it's not really a good plan, so I could have gone c5 straight away. Instead of that, I played knight d7, which is suboptimal, but it reinforces the idea of c5. However, I'm no longer able to play knight bc6 now, which is not good. I would love to have my knight on c6. So this is the first inaccuracy. Then my opponent played g4, and I wasn't really sure what to make of that move. So the main candidate again was c5, followed by knight c2, and then they threaten c3. So if I take on e4, if they play c3 straight away, I can take on f3, and that's fine. And queen takes f3. There is no longer cd as a resource because it's not a tempo on the queen. So bishop a5, but it's fine because I'm still covering b4. So that was one candidate. The other candidate was simply to take on e4 straight away, and after fe4 to play bishop takes c3. Queen takes c3. If that happens, then knight f6 and two pawns are hanging. So I was thinking queen f3, but queen f3 hangs the d pawn. So I don't think there's a way to save all the material anymore. So after fe4, bishop c3, you have to play bc3. And now I wasn't sure what to do. I wanted to play c5, but I wasn't sure what the position was like. c5, of course, white isn't going to take. Let's say they just develop. Do I play cd4? I don't want to castle. Do I play knight f6? So I wasn't sure. And it seemed to me that all of these moves were, quite committal. If I take on e4 or play c5. So instead I played knight f6, which according to the engine is a dreadful move. I wanted to tempt my opponent into advancing his e-pawn. That may sound strange, and in this case it was pretty bad, but I thought, okay, if he plays c5, I go e5, I go knight d7, and now I have c5 unopposed, the center is closed, d5 is never going to collapse. That was my thinking. And then he played knight c2, which I'd expected, threatening c3. So now I have a couple of options, b5, c5, or moving the knight to create a square for the bishop. I didn't seriously consider knight g6, because after bishop g5, well, what am I supposed to do? Bishop e7, h5, I could conceivably go knight h4, but I can also go knight f8. I didn't like that. The second candidate was c5, and what worried me here was queen b3, not c3. c3 doesn't work, because if c3, then cd4, And if he plays knight d4, I play bishop c5. On queen d4, I play bishop c5. On cd4, the bishop is no longer hanging, so I'm fine. But I was, however, afraid of queen b3. And I was going to play a5 here. Another candidate I briefly entertained was knight c6, but a5 seems to be the only reasonable move. And now after c3, I have to go a4, and after a3, I have to go a4 again. And once the queen moves away somewhere, I have a safe square for my bishop. So that was the second candidate. But I ended up choosing b5, which, as you can see, according to the engine, is not as good. And my idea was, well, c4 is never going to happen. I'm still going to play c5, although this time I can prepare it. So I was happy. Knight h3, queen c7, preparing c5. I could have gone c5 straight away. Queen b3 doesn't really do anything because bishop a5. Rook d1, and now I could have gone c5 straight away, but I wanted to play a6 first. I didn't want to hang my pawn. I wasn't sure whether there was a downside to a6, but there isn't one. Okay, and here I thought if I took, I will gain a tempo to play c5. And c5 cannot be taken, and e5 is hanging. So bishop d2, rook d2, c5, c3 is the only move. Otherwise cd, knight d, and knight e5. So that was good in my mind. But then I thought, why not put pressure on this? Why not keep my best piece? Because this bishop is a great piece. White's pawns are on dark squares, so I'm the one who wants to keep the dark squared bishop. So I played bishop b6, which is an awful mistake, as you can see. My opponent played king g2, okay, and now finally c5, a move that could have and should have been played 10 moves ago. c3 as expected. And now I went a bit crazy. I saw that the king was misplaced on g2, and I wanted to open up the position, and most importantly, I wanted to gain access to the f5 square, so I played h5. It's not a bad move, but of course my opponent doesn't have to take on h5. Of course, he shouldn't take on h5. And the main variation I was calculating is, well, what if my opponent puts pressure on the pawn with knight f4? And I had everything worked out. g6, knight g3, which, okay, hangs the d pawn, that's a blunder. But let's assume my opponent had played a better move, such as bishop e1, transferring the bishop to the g3 square, and in that way indirectly putting pressure on the queen, or king h3 to allow rook g1. If king g3, then I think I do take on g4, and you know, everything seems fine. But he played knight g3, and knight g3 is an awful blunder. I didn't know whether to take on g4 first or to take on d4 first. The engine prefers hg slightly, but I don't think there's a real difference. So I took, my opponent took on d4, now I threw in hg, which is an awful mistake. And the reason it's a mistake is because my opponent should go knight fe2 and set up a blockade on d4. Which I didn't see at all, because on knight fe2 I play gf3 check. So apparently he could have played knight fe2 defending d4. But he played fg, and now bishop d4 is a full pawn up, and of course the position is collapsing, e5 is hanging. Knight d3. I didn't know whether I should take straight away. I was kind of afraid to play knight e5 because of bishop f4. I do have f6, but I really didn't want to weaken my e6 pawn. So if knight e5, bishop f4, f6 is the only move, and now e6 is weak, what happens on rook he1? I just didn't want to do that. So I played queen b7. Queen b7 unpins, still threatens to take. And once my bishop moves away, d4 is check. And d4, it's important that it's check because I want to get my knights to d5 with tempo and into these squares with another check. So he plays bishop f4 here, defending the pawn. Knight c6, increasing the pressure. Rook d1, defending. And now I think I made a very bad move. I played bishop a7. Even though the engine thinks black is still better, it's the completely wrong plan. I never want to play d4 because e6 is going to be weak. That may seem hard to understand, but h5 can come and will come. And if my opponent takes and I recapture, queen e6 is check. So to simplify things, I don't want to play d5 because I don't want to weaken e6. Here my opponent played bishop g5, which surprised me. I did not expect it, and it's a great move. The idea behind it is that if I castle, my opponent can play bishop f6 followed by h5, and then also transfer the queen to f4 with either, let's say, queen c2, queen f2, queen f4, and after bishop f6, knight f6, ef6, if I castle, queen h6 is mate on g7. So I didn't want to castle. I played rook c8. He played knight b4. I mean, here I had a very, very long think. Now I have two knights defending, attacking e5. I could have taken this. I also have bishop b8. My queen isn't pinned, so it was a free pawn. However, there is queen takes d5 and knight takes d5. So I wasn't sure about that. So say I take. Okay. If my knight moves, this pawn hangs. Maybe I was a bit paranoid. I should have gone for this. Now the second thing I was looking at turned out to be a mistake. I wanted to occupy c2 and in conjunction with my queen start putting pressure on my opponent's king side. So I played knight takes b4. It's okay, black is still better, but a mistake compared to knight takes e5. Queen takes b4, rook c2 check, king h3, what I thought was the only move, and now bishop c5. I have to defend mate on e7. The queen moves. The queen went to f4, which is the most sensible square, and I couldn't find the win. I was thinking about rook c4 and rook f2, but then I figured, well, why am I afraid of the queen being on f4? I really don't care, because I have rook h7. So if my opponent plays rook f1, I go rook h7 and everything's defended. I'm not castling anyway. I'm never going to castle because I get mated. So I just took on b2, which turned out to be the best move. Also, I have rook b4 in the future. He played rook hf1, and now the engine says it's equal if I castle. That's insane. I thought if I castled, my opponent would play bishop f6, and wait, I can take? Oh, I just go king h7. In my mind, I stole a tempo from black. I thought that white's to play here and plays queen h6. Okay. In any case, I never intended to castle because rook h7 is good enough. He played rook c1, and now I just need to prevent counterplay down the c file, and it's over. So rook b4, the queen moves, rook c4, no counterplay. He played rook c1, and that's just a blunder. Bishop b4 wins an exchange, and that's how the game ended. I wouldn't say it was a difficult game. I enjoyed playing e6 against the fantasy after a very long time. Still one of my favorite systems. Let me know what you think if you play the Caro-Kann. What do you do against the fantasy? Do you play queen b6 or e6 or something else? Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more chess. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.